Hello and welcome to this PIR live event webinar brought to you by Partners in Research Canada. My name is Stacey Joyce and I will be your host for this special event on Pink Shirt Day. If you're joining us live, remember that you can ask questions anytime throughout the webinar. If it's during the presentation, we'll just queue them up for the right time, so you don't need to hold off. What you do need to do is click chat in the top left corner of your screen and make sure you change the to field so that it includes all attendees as well as panelists. That way the other classes joining will be able to see all the questions being asked across the country today. I know for certain we've already seen classes saying hello from Ontario, from Alberta, and from Nunavut, so that's pretty exciting today. We also have our guest, Dr. Joanne Cummings, our star of the day today. She is a clinical child psychologist and the Knowledge Mobilization Director at PrevNet, which is a network of Canadian researchers and youth-serving organizations that are promoting relationships and eliminating violence, so hence the PREV part of PrevNet. Thank you so much for joining us today. I will let you take it away.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's a wonderful thing to be able to celebrate Pink Shirt Day all together. So I will start a little slide presentation, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you today. So first of all, I thought it would be a good idea to talk a little bit about the history of Pink Shirt Day, because it was actually started in Nova Scotia in 2007.
Joanne, sorry, Dr. Cummings, I just need to pause you there. We don't have your slides on our screens yet. I bet they're looking at you on your screen, and we just need to share the screen. So once you've got those slides open, you can hover over my face and click the share screen button that appears at the bottom there.
Well, thank you. I will. Here we are. All right. Sorry about that.
Let's make sure we've got those up. Wonderful. And we'll go full screen and we'll be off to the races.
Thank you. So back to the history of Pink Shirt Day. In 2007, on the first day of high school for a student in grade 9, a boy came to school wearing a pink shirt and he got bullied for it. Two older students, Travis Price and David Shepard, heard about this, and they decided to do something really exciting and very positive to support the boy. They ended up going to a store and buying hundreds of pink shirts, and they distributed them first thing in the morning of the second day of school. And as I know Travis, and he told me he will never forget the look on that young boy's face when he walked into school and he saw hundreds of students, particularly older students, wearing a pink shirt. This really helped him to feel accepted and a sense of belonging and being welcomed. So when we talk about bullying, what are we talking about? We see bullying as a problem in a relationship, and it involves two key components. The first part is its aggressive behavior. Anything that's mean, hurtful, could be physical, it could be verbal, it could happen face-to-face or online or behind somebody's back. And another component that defines bullying, and it's not just conflict, is that there is a power imbalance between the two people. One person in the relationship has, for some reason or another, more power than the other person. So what is a power imbalance? They often occur in relationships. It's not a problem if there's a power imbalance when the power is used positively. Differences between people can create power imbalances. For example, a first very obvious one is age. Older people, adults, tend to have power and responsibility for children. You might have power because you're a boss. You might have power because you're a good athlete, or because your appearance is something that everybody else admires. Very often males have more power than females, but that's changing. Young kids could have more power because they're popular, or there might be differences in race, religion, or culture that create power imbalances between people in relationships. Positive versus negative power. What do we mean by positive power? If you have more power than another person, for example, a younger brother or sister, a parent has more power than a child, a teacher has more power than a student. This is not a problem as long as the power is used to help the other person, making the other person who has less power feel safe and healthy. So adults very often have to create rules to keep young children safe and healthy. We want people to feel respected and cared for, even though we might have more power than them. We want people to feel good and in a position where they can be their best. Negative power is the opposite. It's used to benefit the person with more power. It's selfish. It makes the other person with less power feel frightened, scared, worried, disrespected, disliked, and hurt. You could be hurt physically, or your feelings can be hurt. Your confidence can be hurt. In positive relationships, and this is really important, human rights to be respected and to have dignity are upheld. And it doesn't matter whether it's between somebody with more power or less power, there has to be mutual respect that goes in both directions. And when there's a healthy relationship, both people within it feel respected, feel safe, develop a sense of trust for the other person, show that they care, can communicate honestly, can be independent in a healthy relationship, which means in friendships, you don't have to like the same music, you don't have to dress the same way, you don't always have to hang out together, you can be independent within the caring relationship. And a really important part of healthy relationships is fun. People have fun together, and having fun and enjoyment is the glue that helps relationships to flourish. Bullying within a relationship is the opposite. It violates human rights because it makes the person who's being bullied feel very disempowered and very bad. So we say bullying really is an abuse of power. And of course, bullying, which involves aggression, creates hurt feelings, intimidation, humiliation, or embarrassment. And this is something that really, really can have very negative effects on a person, not just in the moment, but as time goes on, the effects of being bullied can last for many, many years. And many adults talk to me about their memories of having been bullied as a child. It stays with you. So I guess the main idea here, especially on Pink Shirt Day, is that everyone has the right to be respected and to feel included. When we have healthy relationships at school, everyone can feel good and can be free to learn very well. Obviously, getting bullied leads to feeling hurt, feeling sad, feeling angry, feeling alone. And the next step is that the person who is being bullied often loses confidence in themselves and loses confidence in other people and feels that there's no one they can trust or turn to. And of course, when we feel unsafe at school, it makes it very hard to go to school and to be able to learn at school. So that's why it is so important that we stand up for one another. What can we do when we see bullying happen? Well, the first thing is to think about ways to help the person who is being bullied. It might be inviting them to go somewhere else. It might be going up to them and saying, "What happened to you wasn't fair. It's not okay." Another thing we can do is to seek help from a trusted adult. At school, you have teachers and many caring people who you can turn to. And it's very important, if you feel that there's someone being seriously bullied, that you report it and seek help from an adult. Finally, if you feel safe and confident, you can tell the person who is bullying to stop doing it. But you want to do it in a way that's respectful. You don't want to bully the person who's bullying. You just want to say, "That's not okay. Please stop that behavior. If you don't stop, I'm going to seek help from an adult." So this is as much as I'm going to talk, and I'm hoping to hear from all of you. But we'll just review the really exciting messages of Pink Shirt Day. The first is that we're all in this together. Imagine how that young boy felt on his second day of grade 9, second day in high school, when everybody showed up wearing pink. And the second message is that every one of us can make a positive difference.
Well, thank you so much for those details. I think it helps our students to clarify what defines bullying and why it is different than some of the other instances around. We did have a couple questions come in during the presentation. Ms. Boncardo's class was wondering if you have ever been bullied or had firsthand experience with this.
Definitely. I think that when I look back at my childhood, and I've given this plenty of thought over the years, I had an older sibling who occasionally bullied me, and that happens in families. I also had experiences in school in which I was bullied by an older student on my way to school, and it was very scary for me because I just didn't want to walk to school or walk home to school by myself. And there also, when I've really given it some thought, I realized that there were times that I probably contributed to bullying other kids by gossiping behind their back and by doing things that were unwelcoming. And I've taken responsibility for that, and I feel really bad about that. But at the time, I didn't realize certain of those behaviors were actually bullying.
Right. And on that frame of mind, we have a question from Lexi, who is a grade 7 student at Calvin Park Public School in Kingston, Ontario. And Lexi's wondering if you used to bully, how do you apologize to the person being bullied? So maybe, for example, just saying sorry, if that doesn't seem to be enough, what would you suggest?
I think it's a wonderful question, and it's a fantastic thing to do, because many of us engage in this kind of behavior without really being fully aware of the consequences. But once we've learned about bullying and given it some thought, and if you have a person that you would like to apologize for, I think it's a wonderful thing to do and can make a huge difference for the other person. So I would just go up to them and say, you know, I was thinking about what happened last year, last week, whenever it was, and I realized that my behavior was really not okay. It was bullying behavior, and I want you to know I feel really badly about it.
Right.
I would just be very honest and straightforward.
It's amazing how a straightforward message can be the simple answer sometimes.
Exactly.
So we've had a few questions come in about the sort of the motivation of bullying. Do you have a good sense of why many bullies do what they do?
Well, we have learned from research that there's no such thing as a typical person who bullies. And you notice I try not to label people. I don't say somebody is a bully. I say somebody is bullying. Bullying is a behavior, because lots of good people, as they're growing up, we all make mistakes, might have interactions with others that are bullying, and it's very important that all of us can change. Now, in terms of why do people bully, research shows sometimes it's people who are very popular, have a lot of friends, and they get a lot of attention, and they get a lot of benefits from bullying because nobody stops them. They think the behavior is acceptable, and they enjoy the attention they get, and they enjoy the feelings of power it gives them. Other kids bully because they themselves have been bullied, and they feel it's a way of getting their power back. Of course, that doesn't really work, but in the moment, it might make them feel better to make somebody else feel worse.
So that leads perfectly into a question we have from another student in Kingston, Ontario. A-Rose is wondering if some bullies bully because they were bullied, and those bullies then bully others because they were bullied, and so on. Who starts the bullying chain, and how do we stop it?
That's a really wonderful question, and a question that I myself have thought about a lot. I do think that it's really hard to say where does that chain begin, because it could begin in many different places. For example, some kids may feel that they're bullied at home, or they may see other people being bullied, or they might think, if I don't do it, someone's going to bully me. So I think really important part about it is to realize that it becomes like a chain, and we have to break the chain, because it doesn't help. It really doesn't help a person to be better off by making somebody else less happy. And that's the important point.
Right. Just trying to pick from all of these questions which one I should relay to you next. Let's go a bit broader, perhaps. And we have another grade 7 student from Ms. Bridgen's class wondering, where in the world is the rate of bullying increasing or decreasing, or perhaps how do countries or regions of the world stack up for their incidence of bullying?
Well, we know there's several surveys that are given all around the world in developed countries, and one of the surveys is called the Health Behaviors of School-Age Children. So we compare rates of bullying in Europe, in Asia, in Canada, and what we find is bullying happens everywhere. It's a pretty universal phenomenon. That's number one. And number two, compared to many countries, especially the Northern European countries such as Scandinavia and Norway, even England and even United States, Canada reports higher rates of bullying. So although our rates have come down substantially in the last 10 years. So it is a problem. It's something that we all have to be aware of. And Canada is doing an okay job, but we could be doing better.
Right. And we have a question now from Ms. Cam's class. How do you distinguish between abuse, bullying, and assault?
Well, when bullying is very severe, it can become assault. So we're saying bullying is any kind of aggressive behavior that's done in a relationship in which there's a power imbalance. But if the behavior is severe enough, then it becomes a criminal assault. So it's a question of how severe the behavior is.
Right. And we have a few questions now related to Pink Shirt Day. So we've had students wondering, where did the boys get the money to buy those shirts? And has Pink Shirt Day reduced bullying in any way that we've been able to measure? And is it recognized all over the world?
All right, well, 3 questions. So in terms of where the boys had the money to buy the shirts, it was right after they had a summer job. So it was very, very generous of them. But they did go to, I forget which store, but they went to some kind of big box store where they could buy literally hundreds. And I think they weren't really t-shirts, they were like underwear type shirts, but that was okay because people just put them on top of their other clothing. What the second question is
the effect. Have we been able to measure an effect of Pink Shirt Day in reducing the incidence of bullying?
We know that since 2007, the rates of Canadian students from grade 5 through grade 11 reporting bullying other people has been reduced by 50%. But there's been many things that have happened since 2007, Pink Shirt Day being one of them. So it's really hard from a scientific point of view to say it's because of Pink Shirt Day or it's because of some other initiatives that other organizations have done. But taken all together, we know that we're on the right track and that rates of bullying in Canada reported by students is decreasing. The third question is Pink Shirt Day celebrated all over the world? Is mostly a Canadian thing, but it's been covered and other, I think it's become known as a Canadian way of being inclusive and respecting others, and I think other countries know about it. For example, I know that there was news reports in the United States when it happened. It was picked up all over the world because it was such a cool story.
Great. We have numerous questions coming in now about not only what can you do if you see some bullying happening, because you did mention already the different things students can do. What if a student is being bullied and they want to try and do something about that? What should they do?
Well, I think that what they should do is tell someone. That's a really important message. Usually, we know, again from research, that when students are being bullied, they tend, if it's repeated, they usually have tried to stop it. They usually have told the person, stop doing that, it's not okay with me. And yet it persists. When we're at a point where you've told the person, I don't appreciate this, I feel like you're bullying me and I need you to stop, and they don't stop, I think the next thing to do is to tell a trusted adult. Generally, students tell their parents, and then, or they tell somebody at school, a trusted adult at school. We know from research that when we follow up with kids a year later, those who told someone, there are far more likely to have had to report that the bullying stopped. If you keep it a secret, it could go on for a very long time. So it's really important to tell your parents or tell someone at school, and be okay with your parent talking to someone at school. That's very important because of the fact that it is a power imbalance, you need to somehow get other people to help you so that you can stop the bullying.
Right. And we've had a few questions about cyberbullying. So we have grade 4s in Calgary wondering what to do when being cyberbullied, because there isn't anyone around in real time to tell, I suppose, the way there is in person.
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't, but the message is the same. If it's happening repeatedly and you've told the person to stop, you could block the person. But it might, we know from research that cyberbullying sort of goes along with face-to-face bullying. Many students are bullied by someone online and they're also bullied by that person in person. Certainly I would block the person, and I think it's good advice also to take a screenshot so that you have some evidence, and then talk to a parent or to a trusted adult at school, and again, let them take care of this by talking to the person who's perpetuating the cyberbullying and making sure they understand that that's not acceptable behavior.
Right. And we've talked a lot about what to do when bullying occurs, and we now have a question from Nathan, who is joining us from Mr. Robinson's class in Exarneat in Iqaluit, wondering how can we prevent bullying? So I think that's a very interesting question. We've talked a lot about what to do when bullying happens, but how can we maybe stop it before it even starts?
I think it's wonderful to have events like this where we have conversations about bullying and everybody has an opportunity to sort of reflect on their own behavior. Am I being mean to this person? Have I done it more than once? And to understand that that's creating pain for others is not a healthy way of being in relationships. And I think that when we think about having healthy relationships and realizing how much better our world will be when everybody treats one another with respect, then we get into a kind of mind frame that we think, no, I don't want to bully anybody else. And if I see bullying, I'm going to tell that person it's not okay, or I'm going to do something to help the person who's getting bullied.
Right. And we now have a question from the grade 4s at St. Benedict's in Markham. They're wondering, where does bullying happen the most?
Nowadays, I'm not sure, but I think it's most frequent. Students are reporting it most frequently online, but it also happens wherever kids are together in groups. So school obviously would be a big place for bullying to happen, especially areas that are not supervised. That means out on the playground, in the school hallways, sometimes in school bathrooms, places where there are not adults around. But bullying can also happen on sports teams, at summer camp, in recreation programs, wherever there are groups of kids, bullying can happen.
Right. We have an interesting question now from a grade 6 student at Brookville Public School asking what to do when you are being bullied, but that person tells others that you are bullying them.
That is a complicated question because it could be a case of conflict where two people who really are of equal power, they're same age, often that this happens in friendships. And when one person starts hurting the other person's feelings by being mean, by not being nice, they might feel like they're being bullied. Then they're going to respond in an angry, aggressive way. And then the other person might feel that they're being bullied. If it's within a context where you really don't feel that there's a power imbalance, I think the best thing to do is try and talk to the person and say, you think I'm bullying you, I feel like you're bullying me. Let's just kind of take a break and try and be kinder to each other and show each other really more respect because I care about you. But if it's somebody who really you do feel that it's bullying, then you probably will benefit from having a teacher or a trusted adult just talk to both of you, maybe separately, and help sort it out.
Right. And we've had a question pop up a couple times in the feed here, most recently from Genevieve at Exarnate, wondering what you should do if you tell an adult, but the bullying doesn't stop. Is there a sort of a next step?
Yeah. So we say keep on telling. Tell another adult. So if you tell your parents and they say, well, just you know, that's too bad. It's really hard, but there's really nothing we can do about it. Then I would tell somebody at school. If you tell somebody at school and it doesn't help, tell a different teacher. Tell the vice principal. Tell the principal. You have the right to be safe, and you got to keep on telling until someone hears you and starts to help.
Right. And we have grade 4 students at VMPS in Bowmanville saying often the victim feels afraid to speak up as they may feel threatened by the bully. How do they know that they'll be safe if they speak up?
Well, that's a really great question. So we know a lot of victims feel that way, that it's just going to make it worse. But teachers and principals of schools all over Canada have received a lot of information and a lot of education about how to help the situation in a way that's going to make it better for everybody. So it's not about punishing the person who was bullying so severely that that person will be even more angry and do the behavior more. It's about helping that person who has been doing the bullying to understand their behavior, to understand why they're doing it, and to get help to stop. And I know and I'm very convinced that the adults in Canada are ready to take this on and are able to be helpful and really create positive change.
Right. Next, that's bringing me to another question we had from Ms. Shepard's class, wondering if you are a bully, how do you become a better person? We've talked a lot about what's happening if you're being bullied. What if you're listening to this and you think, oh goodness, I have been bullying someone? What can they do?
I think that the first thing they've done is to come to a realization that their behavior is not something they're proud of, not something that they feel good about. If you can, apologize to the person who you have bullied, but it might not be possible. You might not be in the same school anymore. It might have been years before. But think about how is it that you can be really kind and respectful in all your relationships with your friends and with other people you go to school with who you don't maybe consider to be friends, but they're your colleagues. They're people that you can be respectful, you could be kind, you could be welcoming, and you could also take part in bullying prevention activities at your school so that you sort of taken this negative experience and turned it into a positive.
Right. And Maddie from Mr. Watt's class is asking, what is the difference between teasing and bullying?
That's a great question too. So in teasing, it's an affectionate way to maybe say something that's a little bit hurtful, but you say it with a smile on your face and you're making a joke. So it's positive when the other person feels positive and their feelings aren't hurt. But it can easily cross the line where you think you're being funny, but the other person feels hurt. So if somebody is teasing you in a way that doesn't feel good, you got to let them know, that's not funny for me. That hurts my feelings.
And what if someone is attempting to tease and then this happens, the person says, that's not funny, you're hurting my feelings. What can the person who is teasing maybe do to rectify that?
Then you could say, I didn't realize that. I really thought it was funny. If you said it to me, I would have laughed. But I didn't mean to be disrespectful. I didn't mean to hurt you, and I'm sorry.
And we've had a couple questions come in about what if the person bullying that a bystander has observed someone bullying. What if they are a friend and the bystander feels like maybe they can't say anything? What would you suggest?
That's an awkward situation, and sometimes that happens. So, depending on your comfort level, I sometimes talk to the kids that I work with about courageous conversations. Sometimes it's really hard, but you need to say something because otherwise it's going to be a wedge in the relationship. You're going to think, this is my friend, I really like this person, but I don't like this behavior. So you might be able, if you give it some thought and sort of practice and rehearse it, do a little role playing with the stuffed animal at home, and try and practice the words you could say. That's one approach. But if you really don't feel comfortable, then I think it would be a question of reporting it to an adult because you want to protect the person who's being bullied.
Right. And I see now we're already sort of 1 minute over our time here, but I do want to get to one last question. And that is, what is the number one thing you would like to see Canadians do in this fight against bullying, whether it's students or possibly adults? What is it that you would really like to see happen?
Well, going back to the messages of Pink Shirt Day, we really are all in this together. Human relationships are very complicated. It's very important to sort of make a commitment to yourself that you want to be treated respectfully and that you will treat others respectfully. And if you don't, because none of us are perfect, we all make mistakes, then you can take responsibility for it. Tell the person you didn't mean to hurt them and you're sorry, and that you're going to try and do better next time.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's such an important message, and it's a great day to address this message. We really appreciate you answering all the questions that we had come in.
Thank you so much, Stacey.
And just to let you know, tomorrow on PIR Live event, we're discussing astronomy and discoveries like gravitational waves and other particle physics things in general. More information on these webinars and other PIR educational programs is available at pirweb.org. Thanks so much for tuning in today on Pink Shirt Day, everyone. I hope you have a good one. Bye now.